Hello everyone, this is Johnny and welcome back. In today's video I want to do something a little different. So ordinarily I'm showing you a lot of different propagation stuff and I talk mostly about Japanese maples on this channel. But we also grow a number of other plants and we have a garden here in our yard. And so I wanted to take you on a garden tour here at the very end of May and show you around some of the things that we grow here in our yard. So stick around and I'll show you a quick tour of my garden. Okay, first of all, here at the end of my yard, we have a number of raised beds that I built. And this was kind of a somewhat unusable spot in our yard. It has a weird slope and the soil was not so good, but I tiered in these raised beds and they have been very useful. So here on this end, I obviously have garlic. We have 2 beds of garlic. It's looking extremely good, nice and healthy. Of course, we put that in a few months ago, and that's doing well. We'll harvest that later on this summer as we start seeing the tops die back, which we're starting to get a little bit of that. So we're starting to approach that now. But once the tops die back, then you know it's time to pick that garlic. But it looks like we're going to have a good garlic harvest this year. Down on this lower bed, on the edges of these beds, I have strawberries, and there are a few that are close to being ripe, and I'll probably go through and pick some of these as well today. This one's not quite ready, but it's getting pretty close. But we have some chamomile there growing. We have some tomatillos that are just kind of getting going here, and those will grow quite a bit. And we got a lot of harvest from our tomatillos last year in this exact spot. Then we have various peppers that are coming up right there. That particular one, it says it's an Anaheim. So we got an Anaheim pepper right there. And then we got various, looks like beans back here. I think those are green beans that will grow up this trellis. Take you around to this other lower tier. More strawberries, more peppers, more beans back there. We've got some milkweed coming up right there as well. Definitely good for the pollinators. And as we move over, I obviously can't pass up these David Austin roses that we have planted here at the end of our yard. Stunning, and they're really in full bloom right now. Just beautiful roses. You just can't beat the beauty of these roses. I mean, look at that. Very stunning. I think this one maybe is even more stunning as far as the color goes. Really like that one quite a bit. So if you like this one here, this is the David Austin Lady of Shalott. Okay, down here we have our green onions, and those are in bloom. Those are pretty right now. We have some more strawberries, and then in between there we have some tomatoes. This year, instead of caging most of my tomatoes, what I'm actually doing is I put in these posts right here, and then we have the trellis here in the back, and I'm actually going to do, I think my wife called it the California weave, but we're actually going to take rope, and I can show you this later on if you're interested, but I'm actually going to take rope and I'm going to feed that and kind of weave that in between the tomatoes and support it as we go up on this trellis support. So that's going to be an interesting way to do it. Up here we have some peas. They're going to grow up this trellis, and then we have more tomatoes. Some of these tomatoes are doing really well, like this particular one, doing really well. That's a big tomato. It looks like I already need to start supporting these ones with that rope method that I mentioned. So those are coming along very nicely. Looks like, yeah, that strawberry is ripe enough for me to pick that, so I'll pick that in a little bit. That's looking good. We have these little areas here where we have milkweed started. Milkweed there as well. Another bed with strawberries and tomatoes, looking good. Something else we did this year is I mulched in the beds, and we're trying to see if we can do better with having to water just a little less and also keep the soil nice and moist throughout the season. We do have drip buried in these beds. And there's a drip system. You can see right here a little bit of it sticking out, but most of the drip is actually covered there. But it gets watered automatically. But by having the mulch, hopefully that helps a little bit retain moisture, and we could even maybe water a little less during the summer. Got a sage here that's flowering. I believe this is a white sage. This was actually transplanted from another part of our yard, so the shape of it's a little funny because it was transplanted from another area, and it's kind of been growing a little funny. Maybe this will need some pruning, but it's still alive, it's still flowering, and that's a great plant. Got some strawberries and a few other various plants, some more beans back there. Here at the bottom of our yard, we have some violets that have kind of filled in this area that wasn't being used for anything, and they look pretty happy to me. They get a lot of moisture down there and a lot of runoff from these beds, so they're doing pretty well down there. Once again, another bed with tomatoes and strawberries. All right, down here, once again, more tomatoes and strawberries. Got a bed there, more tomatoes and strawberries. Here we have some onions on the front. I think most of these are bulbing onions, either white or yellow or similar. I got a few more peppers there. And then we have this blackberry bush, which I actually need to go ahead and kind of train. It's gone a little wild here. But last year, this particular blackberry produced a bunch of fruit. This has been a very vigorous fruiting blackberry, and it tastes amazing. I'm not even sure the variety, but it does have thorns, and it does produce a lot. And it looks like here we have quite a few flowers forming, so that should produce a good again this year. We also have various spots in our yard where we have elderberries growing here at the end. These were transplanted earlier this year, so I got that one. Got elderberries back in this corner as well. And we do have those flowers starting to form. And there's also elderberries on this side as well. Once again, a bunch of those flowers starting to form. Got a hawthorn tree here. I actually transplanted that this year when it was pretty big out of another part of the yard to make room for other things. We have Rosa rugosa bush here, and a lot of those flowers are spent. But a beautiful Rosa rugosa across here. I guess there's multiple Rosa rugosa bushes here in this bed. Okay, up here I have a porch box, and we have marigolds. Looks like we have a nasturtium there on the corner. We have various tomatoes put across here. Looks like we have a parsley there in the corner. And then looks like some beans back here that are going to be growing up, and they'll grow up this trellis. Then on this side, we have some very small basils that should grow well. We've done very well with basil across here. It looks like some dill. Let me smell this. Yeah, definitely dill. Got some dill right there. That dill's looking good. More tomatoes. And then we have an espaliered apple tree, which I don't know if it's going to make it. We put this in the ground like, I don't know, a month or so ago, and it was a bare root plant, and it's not doing anything. So I'm not seeing any bud break. So we might have to take that back to the nursery and see if they can exchange it for something. Yeah, unfortunate, because this would be a good spot for that. Then in this bed, I got some more marigolds across here, some more tomatoes, and some more beans. Okay, let's move over to this side. So on this side, here's a lavender, a Stoicus lavender, and this particular one is a volunteer. So we had some lavenders across here, and some seeds fell and just planted itself right here. And I love this particular one. I'm actually probably going to propagate off this maybe today or the next couple weeks. But just a nice seed-grown variety here, and has beautiful flowers, and it has a nice lighter green color to the foliage. But I do like that one. Of course, our lilacs here in these pots, those are, the blooms are spent, but have various kinds of lilacs there. This pot has a mix of roses and peonies, and a mixed color of peonies. Of course, peonies are beautiful. Love that peony right there. It's stunning. Got some darker pink peonies as well, a little smaller, but still very stunning. Go over here, of course, have some of the Japanese maples, the Alarian, the Kasagiyama, which I'm loving that summer color right now, kind of the oranges and reds. That's looking beautiful. Coral bark maple, which really shines in the winter and in the fall. Got the Orangiola maple. It's beautiful there. And then across here in these beds, most of these are ornamentals. They got some poppies growing up there. Got various dahlias that are growing up in here. Like here's a dahlia plant, and looks like we should have flowers from that dahlia in not too long. Got some buds forming. And then a mix of other various plants. Not going to worry about every variety right now. But I do love this particular one, which is often called red valerian. We have this plant here, and I'm actually going to start some seeds for this to hopefully sell some of these plants. But beautiful perennial plant. Looks wonderful. It doesn't have a lot of smell, but it has a little bit of a smell. Can't smell it much today, but sometimes you get a little bit of smell from it, but mainly just a beautiful plant, and it comes back every year. It does well for us. Okay, have a peony there in that pot, and that flowered earlier. It looks like we're getting some seeds in that seed pod. And then across here, these raspberries are doing really well. So I transplanted these from the other end of the yard down where I have the tiered beds. And they have just taken off, and I'm gonna have to trim back this a little bit and kind of control it. But these raspberries are doing incredibly well, and we are actually starting to get some fruit here, as you can see. Starting to get fruit. Those blossoms are turning into fruit. So in the next several weeks, we should start getting berries to be able to pick off of this. And these particular varieties, I think I have Heritage and Joan J in the varieties, but those produce very well. This corner here we have a nice rosemary. And then here on this trellis we have Cecile Brunner climbing roses, and those will have another flush of blooms pretty soon. You can see most of these blooms are fading, but this is a pretty stunning climbing rose, and when it's in full bloom, it's amazing. So the first flush is going out now, and then we should get a few more flushes throughout the summer. But I do love that. Here in the patio, got a fig tree. Got an evergreen clematis growing here, and I'm going to give some of that, and I'm going to give that some blooming fertilizer so we can get some more blooms on that. But this has fragrant white little blooms that form. But one of my favorite plants that I'm propagating off of. Then in this bed, got various lettuces, which these are ready to pick. We got some in the refrigerator, and so I need to go ahead and we need to use up that quickly so we can eat these before they go too far, because really these are perfect right now. Some beautiful romaine. Looks like we got a butter lettuce back there, and maybe some red. What is that? Red butter lettuce? I'm not sure, but actually that one's starting to bolt a little bit, so we need to go ahead and pick that shortly. Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick tour through my garden. Do let me know in the comments section below if you'd like to see more tours throughout the year as the garden grows up. I can do more of those later on. But until next time, thank you so much.